On this week's episode of the MHM Social, I chat to former Manchester United and England defender, Paul Parker. Paul, thanks for joining me today, mate. Appreciate that. I want to start off by talking about one of your old clubs, Man United. You know, they're 2 points clear at the top of the league at the moment. They've had some good results against Liverpool and Man City. Do you think they're genuine title contenders?
I would say they're getting through games. And your first question is, yes, they are contenders because they're in the mix. They're at the top of the league. But then there's another at least 5 teams. 2 of them you've just mentioned. You have to mention Spurs and you have to mention Leicester. United are contenders. I think it's big news because it's Manchester United and how they've been since 2013, when they've been a distance away, regardless of the fact that they did finish second under Mourinho as a football team, and with the points difference as well, they were miles away.
Yeah. And I know you were openly critical about Jose Mourinho, even when Man United finished second and they won the Europa League. When Ole was given that big contract, a lot of people were critical about him. I was myself, whether he warranted that length of contract. But do you think the way that Man United are performing now and the way he's got the likes of Pogba playing for the team, do you think he warrants that deal? Do you think he's the right man for the job?
I would say everyone's idea on the value and what people are earning, there's big difference. But what he's had to do and what he's had to contend with, he's done it very well. I think the club needed a lift. I think the people at the ground, the people at the training ground, all of them needed a lift because everyone was on a downer. United, I think, had lost a little bit of its soul, and Ollie's come in and he's gone and done that. But now everything he's been trying to do is starting to fall into place because of what's changed in football in the world at this moment in time. It's allowed him to get closer quicker than what everyone thought he would have done, and I think he was exactly the same. It is imperative for him to win something.
Yeah. You know, you talk about Ole understanding what it's like to manage and play for a club like Man United, and it makes me want to ask you about your time at the club and what it was like going from QPR to Man United and what the differences were playing for a club of that stature and how it actually improved you as a player.
You notice a big difference from coming from QPR, previously being at Fulham. Firstly, you notice is the size of the ground. And then you notice that when you step into the ground, you'll see more people in 5 minutes than what you would have done walking around Queen's Park Rangers or Craven Cottage. And after spending half an hour there, I knew that I wanted to play there. 4 hours earlier, was sitting in the Royal Lancaster Hotel with Terry Venables, chatting to him about signing for Spurs, the team I supported as a boy. And it was just, everything was working out perfect because I was going to stay in London and play for Spurs. But the moment I got there, I knew that I wanted to be there. But I did know as well that I was putting myself under serious pressure with a club that only had one thing in its mind, was to win a league title. As much as they were winning FA Cups, which they'd won a year previous, they had actually just won a European Cup Winners' Cup, which was Europe's very important to Manchester United. Very important. It's not just about, people see it as winning and winning and winning, but Europe holds so many memories of that club in the sense of they remember the players they lost because of European football and them challenging to be a European giant. They lost, almost a whole team because of it. So Europe is a big thing to United. But at that given time, United had gone 24 years without winning the league. So the most important thing for them when I arrived, me, Peter Schmeichel and Andrei Kanchelskis, was to win it in the 25th year. I think everyone knows that never materialised. It was a year later. So I knew then that the moment I signed, I was putting myself under serious pressure because if things didn't go right, if I didn't perform, if the team didn't perform, there's always going to be changes. And after that first season, it was made obvious to a lot of us that, after what happened in the latter part of the season, it was never going to be stood for. It was said at the end of the season, it was said at the start of pre-season. And lucky enough for us, even though we didn't have the greatest start in that 92-93 season, we won it. We did win it, and we won it, which will look like quite comfortably, but it was always a battle. But we dug deep and we won it. We won that first Premier League title, and it's Liverpool are finding out now to retain the title is very, very difficult because there's no blueprint, and there's nothing there in black and white to say how to do it. You have to learn as you go. And Liverpool at this moment in time are understanding that now every team has seen what you got. Every team has got an idea how to stop you doing what got you in that great position. And Liverpool, are struggling with that. They would always say because they're missing key players, but you have to have something different to go and retain the title. We went out and we signed Roy Keane, and that helped us then to regain the title and win an FA Cup in the same season and lose a League Cup final as well.
Well, I think, like you say, when you do win the title, you have to go on and adapt because you become everyone's blueprint for doing so. And also you become everyone's cup final day out. Everyone wants the scalp of beating the champion. So for United to adapt and to go on and keep being successful continuously throughout that period and keep bringing through player after player after player and getting it right, it's fantastic, really.
Yeah, it certainly was. And you just said a good point there as well, is that you can keep buying and buying and buying. But what United were doing there was introducing players from within as well. So the emphasis wasn't always on about United spending to get this, get that. Yes, they were spending. You have to spend. But what you do is that you cover that by bringing through players as well. And they were very fortunate that the players who come in at that given time did very well. So when those young players come in, they didn't feel as if they made a mistake. They were going to get persecuted for it. We'd see them in training. They train with us, and timing is important in anything in life. But Sir Alex knew when to bring those players in. Maybe he knew a little bit too much, and sometimes I wish he didn't know so much because then Gary Neville wouldn't have taken my place.
Well, it's like you say, in the backdrop of buying Peter Schmeichel and yourself and Roy Keane and all those other stars, you've also got the class of '92 emerging. So it's kind of a testament to the man in charge, where he had that perfect balance of buying the right players and buying the stars, but also making sure that he had youth coming through at the same time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And he was running the whole club, by the way, Michael. He wasn't just a football. He was actually a manager, not a coach. He was managing a football club. So he knew everything that was going on within that football club as well. So he was the last but one of that kind of manager in the Premier League. The last one has just already gone from, left Arsenal.
Yeah.
And that was Arsene Wenger, because to get that success, what they had over that prolonged period of time, it isn't just about being a coach. You have to have some kind of man management skill.
And I wanted to ask you about Sir Alex and your relationship with him. What was your best Sir Alex story? There must be one that you've got.
There is one, but I don't really want to say it.
Tell me that one. Tell me that one when we stop recording, Paul.
But it's just about him as a person, the way he is more than anything. Be very difficult to find anybody like him in football. I think in general, really, a person, a manager that can go and talk about any subject and know it as well as that person. He was just the ideal person to play for, to listen to, and not to question, because generally you was always wrong. You'd always believe that sometimes he's bluffing, but he would know.
Yeah.
He would know straight away. He could sense things. He was a manager, a very, very good manager. But when he wanted something, when he really needed more, he'd go and get himself a good coach. That's what he had around him. He had good people who could do those jobs better than him. He wasn't worried about whoever his coach was. If things weren't going right, them taking his job. He wanted to have the best team possible and wanted to get the best from that team. He wanted a coach who got to know the players quite personally and kind of could tell him if they were right within themselves, if they felt anything, because you do relax. In those days anyway, when the manager wasn't around, it was chilled. When the manager come around, certain players would get a little bit on edge just to sense what his mood was going to be like. And he knew when he needed a change in his coaching team. As far as he was concerned, the way he treated his staff was incredible, by the way. They were mothered the way he treated them. Even the kit man, Norman Davis, even the one who took over from Norman Davis, Albert, all of them were looked after. And Albert and Sir Alex are great friends now. But he knew when he needed to change it to add something different as well. A coach who had a different idea. And that's how he done it. I mean, he finished up with Mickey Phelan, who played for him. Mickey's still there now, come back again. Steve Bruce always used to say about the boss, he said he's fearless, absolutely fearless. He would fight anybody to get what he wants, what he believed was right and successful for Manchester United. And that's what he's done.
I think what you say there is actually a really important point about how he would fight anyone and kind of delivered that fighting spirit, because it definitely fed through to his players, because you could see that on the pitch. And then you go on to what you said about staff and wanting the best team around him and backroom staff around him. I think that comes down to ego. Obviously, the man was confident enough and assured enough in what he was doing to have the right people and the best people around him, because that's what made the best team. He wasn't worried about them trying to do their own thing or infiltrating his own plans. He trusted that everyone was buying into that Man United family. And I think that's what made him so successful.
He just believed he was better than anybody at his job, but he got people in to help him along that way to achieve that. And he was never, like I said before, he's never worried about himself losing his job. And I think in certain ways that's where football's changed now. I just wonder, sometimes managers move around with the same crew all the time, and you think to yourself, well, that hasn't worked there. Why is it going to work at this club? Why is that suddenly going to go on and on and on? And I think you have to change, and he just always changed.
Do you know, mate, I've got to put you on the spot. On Man United. Do you think this is the year they can win the league? Can they do it, pal?
It's available for them to go and do it, given how football is at the moment, with no one in the stadiums. This is the time that even when we look at it, even Spurs could win the league. It's there. It's accessible at this moment in time. Are United, in normal circumstances, would they be in this position? No, they wouldn't. But they've got an opportunity to go and grab it now, and then maybe change their fortunes, maybe affect the people upstairs who are causing them problems as a club. It might make them think that they've got to up their game and actually start backing the football club and turn around and say, we've got a team here that's just won the Premier League. We're going to back. We now need to invest in them and make them or keep them where they are, because the moment they go and achieve that, then they need to be in a position to go and do it again. And then everyone knows it's going to be even tougher the next time. And it's not because they'd won it before. They'd won it the previous season. It's because football, touch wood, is going to change, and there's going to be fans back in the stadium. So it's going to create a different scenario to what it's been.
I've really enjoyed chatting today, mate. It's been great. And, we've spoke a lot about Man United, and we haven't really touched on all your other career, Fulham and QPR, and, this great career you've had. And I'm sure you'll come back on and we'll talk about that again. But I wanted to finish by saying, a great career, as we've just said, all the things you've done, all the club level stuff, representing your country. What is a great moment that, that really resonates with you, that you'll look back on and say, that was the best time of my career. I'll never forget that.
The biggest achievements, obviously, it's got to be always, when you talk about football, I think people in my area is always about representing your country.
Yeah.
And I think that I was lucky enough that I represented my country, but I was even luckier that I was able to actually go and play in a World Cup. And then I was even more fortunate that I played 6 out of the 7 games. And it helped. And what helped it as well was that we got to a semi-final. There's going to a World Cup and not playing. There's going to a World Cup and getting knocked out in the group stage, which could have happened. There's then getting so far, then coming home embarrassed from a World Cup. And that could have happened after, with the Cameroon game. That could have happened. So there were so many things that could have gone wrong. And the whole thing could have been, the dynamics could have been completely different. But playing in the World Cup for England is definitely the major, the biggest one, which I would say, the one that falls into my head, the one that, you know, changed my life really in that sense, because a lot of people knew me as a QPR player, but that moved that along. And then joining Manchester United, again, that definitely added to it as well.
Superb stuff, mate. It was brilliant. And like I say, we only really touched on a great career there, and I'm sure you'll come back on and we'll chat more, and it'll be really good. And, you know, we got there in the end. We had a few Zoom issues at the start that people won't see, but, you know, we made it work, didn't we, Belle?
Yeah, we got there in the end, but it'll be better next time. There'll be nothing in between.
I like it. Cheers, Paul.
Cheers, Michael.
Take care, mate.
Okay, you as well. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the MHM Social. If you'd like to hear more from us, then please like and subscribe to this page.